Matt gonna call in?
If he does, I will notify you at the time. He has not called in right this.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare Committee meeting for September the 17th, 2024. It's 4:32 p.m. and I'd like to have a moment of silence. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Father, thank you for this opportunity this evening for this meeting and the work that can come from it. I pray for your guidance to direct that work. I also pray specific blessings over all of our employees and folks with the county that are in emergency services, law enforcement, all public safety personnel, that you just protect and guide them and help them to make those quick, instant decisions in just a meaningful, right way, and just give them your support and support this committee, because we need it, and we thank you for all of your faithfulness. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen. Mr. Hart, would you lead us in our pledge, please?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda, I need a motion to approve the minutes for February the 20th, 2024, regular meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, on the agenda tonight, we got discussion items. It's regarding the solid waste capital equipment.
And this time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize the Solid Waste Director, Mr. Swain Still, and the Assistant Solid Waste Director, Ms. Amy Walters.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. So Ms. Brock asked us to go over a few things before we get to the equipment. So we're going to try to discuss these few items here, give you a couple updates. The new scale house and road, we're still into getting the designs approved by the Army Corps of Engineers and also Department of Environmental Services. We're waiting on them and not sure how long that's going to be. We're from the Corps, we're crossing a creek with our road, and so we're still in the portion of checking whether we'll have to mitigate any wetland areas. We don't think so. It's a small crossing, probably just put a pipe or some kind of culvert in the road. But once we get those approvals, we'll start into the next phase of actually cutting the road in and building the scale house. And it's been a long time through the design portion, and we're still waiting on the permits now from the other folks. We have our brown goods compactor has been installed at the Five Forks Recycle Centers. We have not started it yet for the public. We have to train all the staff since we move staff around a good bit, and any one of them could be at the center. We're actually collecting furniture at the landfill, putting them in roll-off so we can take out there and have a training day on a Wednesday to show how this operates. It's a little different. It's a lot different than our typical compactors. Our typical compactors, you can let, back up and then go up there and operate them. These, every time a piece of furniture goes in, it has to be operated then. You can't let the hopper fill up because it's got a two mechanism type system to crush it, to put it into the container. So once we get enough material we can train all the staff and the part-time staff, then we'll open it up to the public. We will also have to post some things of what can and cannot go in, because we are mainly focusing on furniture. We don't want any like lumber and other odds and items coming in there as well. So we've had a lot of, some of y'all have received complaints about the landfill, about how things have changed, and I wanted to kind of bring you up to speed on a few things. Most of all the residents typically go to what we call our wall. They back up and unload. All residents, contractors, and irregular vehicles or dump trailers less than 12 foot unload here. Most residents don't, typically a regular resident doesn't have a real long dump trailer. We have kind of did a survey on that. Most of those, some of them's even smaller, 8, 10, 12 foot long. Once they start getting along past 12 foot for a dump trailer, it's mainly contractors. And one of our issues at the wall, it's kind of hard to see from the picture. If you sit this picture here, about halfway down in the middle of the wall, you can't see it on that screen, about halfway down, you'll see it juts out a little bit. That's when we made a decision. We had a roll-off truck back up to it, slammed into it, and the wall leaned out. We were able to push it back up most of the way and kind of pack it back in place. But those blocks are interconnected. One goes over, at least a third of that wall could come down with it. We've got it tied in. It's sitting on pretty firm ground underneath. But a lot of the, roll-off trucks, they like to slam it so everything will come rolling out of the back of the truck. So that's when we started moving everybody down. Especially at the busy times, there are times you'll see anywhere from 8 to 12 cars parked across there. We've had in the past year and a half, 2 years, we've had people with dump trailers coming in, long dump trailers. They have them overloaded. We've had some, like a 16-foot dump trailer come in, overloaded with concrete. When it went to dump, it lifted up the truck's back tires and the whole trailer into the landfill. And the truck, it pulling the truck with it. So we try to keep all those types down there into the other area. So all residents and contractors of 14-foot dump trailers or larger, dump trucks, roll-off trucks, or other commercial-sized vehicles, they could go to just the right of the wall. You'll enter in on this side, on the right-hand side. And we also, all loads of shingles and concrete, if it's mixed in concrete that we can't recycle, dirt, other debris, we send them down there as well because we don't want any of the trailers tipping or roll-off trucks turning or going over. And a lot of, even if they got small dump trailers, they overload those with shingles as well. Or the shingles get stuck, especially in the summertime, they'll all mat back together. You have just one clump, and when it comes out, all the weight can shift to the back of the trailer and do the exact same thing, lift it up. So doesn't matter what size load, if they're a 14-foot dump trailer, doesn't matter if they've got 2 or 3 pieces of stuff in there or 1 or 2, or a full load, we send them down as well, just for that designation. So to give you an idea here, they come down the road, it's all pretty much gravel. We got 3-inch rock all the way down to pretty much the dumping area where they're unloading. They could drive down the edge of the gravel, they back, turn around, back up, and then to the cleared area and unload. We get a lot of complaints. If you notice in this picture here, he's backed up to the edge of waste, and if you can see in between there, he's barely on the area that's been compacted, and that's where we want him to back up to. We're not asking him to back up into the large area of trash here. We're just asking him to back up to the edge, unload it, then our dozer can come in, push it out, and then get that area clean again for somebody else. They leave the unloading area by the exit on the right of the entrance, coming back out. Both of those areas are gravel. The exit looks worse. It doesn't look like it's gravel, but it's where they pick up mud and other things from other loads, and they drive back across the gravel. And it actually helps keeping having to come out that side. A lot of the mud stays inside the landfill area versus getting outside in the road. So on this one here, you'll notice it's very well compacted. This was when the compactor, when the compactor's up and running. This here looked just like the other, had trash, except they get out there, the dozer pushes the waste out, and then the compactor evenly spreads the waste, and then we compact it till it's no longer discernible. This conserves airspace. It keeps the ground soft. That way when trucks back up over that area, nails go down in the ground and not up through the tires. I mean, it's like walking across a sponge when you walk across this. And we keep that, typically when we've got the area with the compactor running, that's what the area looks like after about a day of keeping the compactor continually running. This is what it looks like when you don't have the compactor. So you have the waste comes out, our dozer pushes it out as best as we can, but the dozer just doesn't have the cleats on the wheels. It just got tracks. It'll push out, it'll spread, it'll do as best as it can, but it doesn't have the chopping effect. As we were talking about earlier, it doesn't break it down in small pieces. The compactor can do a fine job. It can shred it down to, some very small, fine pieces where the dozer cannot. When we got it compacted well, we save airspace, and it's able to be able to easily covered when we're operating. So our conditions are not ideal. This here is a picture from last week. That's a 963 from the road department because our 973 is down for some repairs. We borrowed it just to cut a road on the back side of our haul road for dirt. You'll notice there you can barely see the machine. It's covered, and it's constantly in that dusty environment. And that's this part of it. The last 2 months, we've had very little rain. We've had less than 4 inches of rain since mid-July, and it is dusty. Even with the little bit of rain we've had the last few days, once the dozer gets out there in the material, it breaks through that crust and the dust still arrives. And it wreaks havoc on the machines. There's many times they'll run it for about an hour and it's already running hot. They have to go park it, sit there and wait for it to cool back down, wash out the screens, and start all over again. So with material like that, the opposite side of this here is we're fixing to enter the rainy season somewhat, and then all this powder turns to mud. And that also wreaks havoc on the machines. You'll see us, we're operating in the mud, the dust. You go down Wells Highway where all the new subdivisions are going in. If it's been raining, they're not operating. Their machines are not out there in it. We have to operate when even they're not operating. So this gives you an idea of where we've been over the last 10 years here. 10 years ago, this is the total tons of waste inside the landfill. Back in 14, 15, all we managed were just what went into the actual landfill hole, a little bit of brush that we ground, and then starting around 16, 17, 18, we started, we were asked to start recycling as much waste as we could. And when, by doing that, a lot of areas around and also construction started getting a little more expansive around that time. We took in a lot of concrete, asphalt, dirt, and our numbers started going up. And then we hit 1920, 2021, 22 with the after effects of COVID and the tornado and just the booming construction. We've hit the highest we've ever hit at the landfill itself of 89,000 tons total coming into the facility. These past 2 years, we've been back down around the 70,000 tons, but in just a short 10-year span, we're still over twice of what we used to haul in during a given year.
Let me interrupt you just a minute. These are annual numbers.
Annual numbers, yes, sir. So on a day, give you a daily, the landfill's open typically 304, 303 days a year. From that standpoint, we average around 100, back in 14, 15, we averaged about 100 tons a day. total, everything. Now, this past year, we're at 234 tons a day, roughly. So it's more than doubles what we're have to handle each day. So this is our current equipment. This is getting to the point where we're bringing it to things. So we're having lots of issues with our compactor. It's been down over the last year or so. It has not been, it'll run for several months and then something comes along. It's got, based on our best guess, it's around 12,390 hours. It's had three different meters put in it, so we have kept a track of all three, and it's roughly around 12,000. It may actually be a little bit more. The 2008 Cat loader, it's got roughly 7,400 hours on it. That's the one we were allowed to replace back in this past budget. We ordered it back in, I think, May, and it's supposed to arrive November, December of this year, hopefully. We've got the dozer we purchased in 2020. It's a 2018 model. It was used. It had, when it came on site, it had a little less than 100 hours on it. It now has 5,200 plus hours on it. That's the one we brought to council last time to send off for the new undercarriage because it's wore. We've got a 2019 Komatsu haul truck. We bought that about 2 years ago. Used. It came in with 2,100 hours on it. Now we've got over 4,100 hours on it. Then our excavator in 2019, it was bought brand new. It's at 3,200 hours. Our wheel loader at the landfill that we used to load our grinder with and also to load the mulch when we're moving it out off-site. It's a 2006 model, and it's got a little over 12,000 hours on it. Our grinder was bought in 2008. It's approximately got 2,800 hours on it. Then we've got a pan that we use. It was in the solid waste department in '84, then it was moved to the road department, and then moved back to us as a backup for us excavating soil to use for cover. We're unsure on the hours because the hour meter doesn't really work real well on it, but it does run and does a job that when needed. Then we have a 2004 water truck, and then the other year this past year we purchased the Kubota tractor and bush hog. And that's pretty much the equipment at the landfill that's used on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On that track loader, what size is it?
973.
973, and on the wheel loader?
The wheel,
Komatsu.
no, the Komatsu wheel loader is it's a Komatsu 270.
Now, when I was out there, they were having problems with it
Yes, sir.
as far as, I don't forget where it was dumping or what.
The wheel loader's having an issue with not changing gears. And we were just discussing that a little bit. They've been tracking it. They think it's an electrical problem. They're not sure if it's a solenoid that's going bad or the battery. That they have changed the batteries a couple times. So they're trying to diagnose that. You know how electrical problems are on machine. You chase one down to another.
Got one more question.
Yes, sir.
We have some type of, I don't know what they call it, recycling crusher that'll take concrete in and crush it. Don't we have one of those that's not being used?
We do have one of those. The issue with that machine, when it was purchased, we do not have any manuals on it that we can find. It was bought used, and it's probably ran a grand total of 8 to 12 hours total. And they had a guy at the quarry who could get it running because he had used it. He is no longer with the quarry. And we have been trying to, we have contacted the The dealer or the manufacturer is out in, I think, South Dakota or North Dakota. We have contacted them, and they're supposed to be getting back with me. I sent them several emails telling exact models, numbers, so we could actually try to use it, get it up and going. But that's where we're at on it. Yes. So here's our issues that we're facing as far as replacement. None of this equipment is something you can just go out and buy it right off the lot. I mean, that's the issue. Just like the 973, it's a special order only. They don't have 973 sitting on the lot. So when we ordered it back in May, it takes 5 to 6 months to get built. Another 3 to 4 weeks to be shipped across and sit through customs. So time frames can be as quick as 2 months. Our wheel loader for the transfer station, we got it in a little under 2 months. But then we've been talking with others, if we purchase a grinder, depending on what brand, it could anywhere from a year to a year and a half out. And that's barring they don't have we can get put on the back burner if you have a major storm somewhere, like a hurricane in Louisiana, or somewhere that's major, like a category 4 or 5 that comes in and just devastates. They will take reroute the orders and send it to those areas so you have some of those issues. Renting is the other alternative. So we are actually, we have not been able to ship off our dozer yet because we were promised by 2 different companies that they had a dozer that they could provide for us while ours was down. However, one found out they did not have the waste handling package on there, and their insurance will not allow them to send it to a landfill without a waste handling package on it. And then we're running into another issue with the other company. They're trying to work out the contract issues on it. So there's very few waste handling packages on machines sitting on a lot to be rented out. So to give you an example, we looked about a month ago at trying to get a compactor rented and brought in, and our actual quote was $32,000 per month for the machine, and it was $24,800 one way to have it hauled in, and he told us it'd be another $24,800 to be hauled back out. So if you rent it for 1 month and that's all you needed it for, you're looking at a $70,000 rental. If you went 2 months, you're already over $100,000. You're already at 1/10 of the cost of a machine. So, I mean, it's very costly. And we don't have those things budgeted because it's extreme. I mean, there's no way we can budget for those kind of rentals during a year when you're talking those kind of numbers. Any questions on that?
I'm just gonna have to digest all this before I can ask questions.
All right. So, one other thing here, September is our Safety Awareness Month. SWANA is Solid Waste of North America. And here's some of the things that we do try to keep people safe at the landfill and also at our transfer station. We don't monitor it, but we ask people no mobile phone use while they're outside of their vehicle. You would not believe how many drivers will get out of their truck with their phone tucked into their shoulder trying to unhook and almost step out in front of the dozers or other things at the landfill. We ask them to wait until they can be signaled by either any of our operators before proceeding and may not contact with them while in motion. We also ask them to wait till they may have to wait to unload until we clear waste out of the way and to back slowly and cautiously. Other things, everybody wants to complain about nails and tires and feet, and how people come out there in flip-flops, literally, open-toed shoes. So we actually ask them to please have closed-toed shoes, preferably puncture-resistant footwear, and also we're not responsible for tire damage. Because they're coming from construction sites, coming onto our property. We've got things rigged up on a tractor to try to pick up nails as much as possible in the parking lots and on the roads, but we can't get every one of them. And who's to say they didn't bring the nail in their tire before they got there as well? We've all had nails in our tires working there, and from that standpoint, and we don't even drive over into the landfill, that portion of it. And then we ask them just be cautious unloading, walking around the tipping wall, especially while they're out there. There's hazards while we're pushing the waste. And we ask them just kind of like with 18-wheelers, if you can't see the driver, they can't see you kind of deal. Especially like you seen the track loader, with that dust billowing up around it, it's hard to see. And it's, backup cameras get covered up in dust. And they're trying to look through the mirror, with their mirrors, through the windshield. They're pretty much, covered. We've also started requiring that all, commercial customers have a high-vis safety shirt or safety vest on. They're required by their, you wouldn't believe how many, even the city workers, we've talked with all the directors for the cities, their guys are supposed to have them on all the time, and they'll show up, take it off while they're riding in the truck, and jump out and run around. So we've gotten that corrected, and then we're asking any other commercial, and we're recommending residents bring their own, and we're even discussing potentially maybe in first of the year, providing some at a cost, if they don't have one to a residence they can keep in their car, especially the frequent flyers that come to the landfill a good bit. Then we just ask them to watch for moving and flying debris. Things can fly up. People stand there at the wall and want to sit there and watch the dozer come by while it's pushing material, and that stuff can splinter, fly up over the wall. We try to ask them to back away, keep away from it. We're in an active construction zone. I mean, solid waste is the 7th most deadliest occupation in the world, in the United States. We were 6th, and we were 3rd. But because of certain safety measures, some of these included, we've actually gone down the list, but we're still in one of the most dangerous jobs out there, even for the public. Any questions? That's all.
I don't have any questions, but I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Now I gotta get my, you need to go on Machinery Trader. I just looked at it on the first page. They got 4 different compactors.
Yes, sir. Some of these, we have looked at some of the used equipment, and it all depends on where they're located and what they've got. There are some styles we don't want because they're plagued with issues. One of the worst problems you have with all compactors, for most compactors, is wire. It wraps around the final drives, gets up between the seals, and then you're down. It cuts through it. And some of the older compactors, they can't get the shields put around them tight enough to actually get them in place. And if you buy one that's already got 3,000, 4,000, 8,000 hours, it's coming in just a few hours behind what we've got now. So that's some of our issues there. We like good used equipment, and we'll always go look, and we're willing to go anywhere to go check it out to make sure we can get the right thing for our landfill.
Have we, and I'm just drawing on, since I spent so much time at Duke and how they emphasize safety and all up there, and God forbid that you back a truck or something into something at Duke.
Yes, sir.
So have we possibly put in place, and let me back up, you know as well as I do, probably half the residents can't back a trailer.
Oh, and half the people, commercial people can't back them either.
They can't back them. So I'd suggest maybe looking at, making a requirement if a person, guy, gal, person brings a trailer into the landfill, that they're required to have a spotter with them, whether they bring their daughter, their son, whoever, that they have a spotter with them, or they don't go down and dump.
Okay.
Because if you got one person in there and he's trying to back up, and he don't know where the wall's at, he's gonna end up in your landfill or whatever.
We do have our landfill monitors. We do have typically around roughly 2 on a shift. They're part-time employees. They do help back up a lot of the trailers. We do get times, like I said, we get more than 2 out there, and then people's trying to fight around it, back up. We do have those issues. They try to get them to wait, because they'll back up. They'll be jackknifed into here trying to dump. They'll want to take the whole parking lot to swing the trailer around. And then we have some that's got fairly good sense. They'll They'll sit there and wait till everybody moves out the way, and then they'll try to back it in.
So it's like a boat ramp. If you ever had to wait on a boat ramp. So, I mean, that's just a suggestion that we might can ask them. You know, if they show up, just one person in the vehicle, then, so we would prefer you'd have a spotter with you, because your guys can't watch them all,
No, sir.
so.
On this compactor,
Yes, sir.
it's got 5,500 hours. Is that too much?
Well, just give you, typically on a compactor, you start having to replace things around the 4,800 to 6,000 hour area. Your typical wheels on a compactor only have a life of about 10 to 12,000 hours, so you've already used half your life on your wheels on that as well. And wheels are not cheap. You're looking at, for wheels alone for a compactor, anywhere from 120 to 180,000 a set. So you can get up there, and then you're not sure. And another issue is, if the dealer hadn't done the servicing, what kind of records do you have on their maintenance programs? Because if it's a commercial company reselling it, or a private industry, you don't have sometimes you don't have a lot of good records on it. What's the price? Do they have a price on that one?
$239?
Something's wrong with it. I'll just tell you that.
You need to look at this
Yes.
website.
Yes.
Because that was, on the first page was 4, and it has 10 more pages.
Yes, sir.
So if you had to prioritize an action plan for us,
Okay.
and then we would be looking for you to provide Ms. Brock an action plan in priority so that we could start acting on it. What would be your number one priority today?
For the landfill itself, or for all solid waste?
For the landfill?
Landfill itself would be a compactor, because that's our most used machine. And once we have the undercarriage rebuilt on the dozer, you'd have the two machines that work side by side with each other. And then, if you have that fixed, and then if something does go wrong, the BOMAG, we can back up on it, and use it as a spare. I mean, it's good, it's still a good machine for a spare, just the everyday, it's past its everyday multiple use. So a compactor is our main concern, getting one that's, in good shape, good quality, and it's got readily available parts. That's our other issue with that too as well.
Ms. Brock, when do we do our strategic meeting?
February.
February.
So let's do that. And this goes for the landfill, solid waste, all your direct reports. Let's get them to start looking at their priorities so that we can implement them, or attempt to implement them in our strategic plan coming for the next year.
Well, and there may be some stuff a little sooner than next year too as well, that we may have to look at as things are going.
We've got some opportunities, Mr. Chairman, and I'm really glad you asked about the priorities. I was sitting here looking at them, wondering if you were gonna pass the test.
Oh, yeah.
He made a priority list. We've already asked for
Yes.
that. There are several priorities that we need to address, and a part of the reason that we're having to address them in such a quick turn manner is that we're not getting equipment repairs in a timely manner. Years ago, when we had a piece of equipment go down, it would be down for 2 weeks, not 6 months. Years ago, when we had equipment go down, we were handling 100 tons, not 280. Years ago, when we had equipment go down, there was at least some form of equipment nearby that we could rent. What are we renting now? It's the dozer, $34,000 a month.
It's $34,000.
So just recently, we've had to rent a dozer because I'm not gonna say a company name, when the repair company came to do a repair on one of our pieces of equipment, the tracks were a completely different size. They won't fit our machine. So it's a compounded issue. It's not, we're not oversimplifying the need for equipment, but it's compounded by this not happening in a timely manner, us not being able to get parts in a usual and organized fashion, us having to deplete administrators' contingency fund really early in the budget year for equipment rentals that are just necessary to operate the landfill.
And these companies, I mean, I'll name every one of them. If it's out there, it's a big company, Cat, Komatsu, John Deere, you name them. They're having the same problems we have. They don't have 30-year employees anymore who can walk out to a machine and go, we know what's wrong with it. They've got 2-year employees, just like we have, that have never been tested. Some of them's just got back from schooling. Another machine comes out and it's got something totally different than they've been to school on. And we're running in that same part. And if they do have good mechanics there, they're having issues getting parts. The one on the dozer, the tracks, the guy's like, we have one set of one kind, and it's back ordered till January, and we've got 2 sets of the other. One's in like Montana, one's in another place, and we're like, we need that set now, not January, because we can't wait another 5 months just to get a set of tracks in here, and their machine being down that long. So they're having those issues too. Supply chain is still having issues.
Especially in large.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't see the solution as totally being the equipment. I think we're gonna have to go broader than that and change the behavior of the people bringing stuff into the landfill. Like your contractors. You know as well as I do, all they wanna do is get it in the dumpster and get it gone, out of sight, out of their hair, regardless of what it takes for us to process it. So it may come to the point where we have to just lay the law down to folks dumping and say, you're gonna have to segregate. There's probably enough waste comes in there, you could build a house within 6 months with the waste that's come in there. And we may have to force them to start segregating their stuff before they bring it in to help with this. I hate to waste, and I hate to see stuff like that go into the landfill and just be covered up.
That's some of the things we have already done, like a good bit of concrete, asphalt, large, heavy items, stumps that are destructive to the machinery. You can't compact concrete. I mean, you can't run over it and crack it. You're gonna have to crush it, run it through like a grinder of some sort. We've already had them trying to separate, and we give them a lower fee for if they bring in clean concrete, and we can sort it and separate it. We rented a machine this year, with a hammer on it, and we crushed probably, close to 8,000 tons, somewhere in that neighborhood, that we used as some of our slope stabilizations on the back side of the landfill near Speeds Creek. So we're definitely reusing a lot of material that would be harmful to machinery out there, and have broken that out. That's part of some of those numbers. I think the last 3 years, we've recycled right at 40,000 ton of concrete, coming into the landfill that were separated out. And if they have mixed loads, if they've got a lot of metal or other items that that can go in there, it's perfectly legal to go into the landfill, but if they've got a lot in there, we ask them to sort that out. And we call that a mixed load, especially if it's like 50% metal and a little bit of construction waste in there and a little bit of this. We'll actually ask them to separate those things out so we can put it they can either take it back with them, or they can bring it over to our metal area and unload there. And if they have some types of mixed loads, we'll either turn them away and have them go straight to a landfill somewhere, or they take it back with them and they sort it and bring it back to us. And we've got a couple companies that are haulers that actually take their waste back to their yard and separate already some of their stuff.
I think that's gonna be part of the solution.
I got another question from your first statement about the Corps of Engineers. Where were you talking about crossing a creek?
Okay, so so if you come into Strawberry Farm Recycle Center, there, we're planning the road to come in for the landfill's new entrance to be to the left, about 300 feet down from the entrance of Strawberry Farms Recycle Center. When you come in, and you'll go past the center and turn to the left to head back toward the landfill. There's a creek that starts up in the backside of BASF, and it comes crosses underneath Strawberry Farm Road, and then it gets larger as it comes down through there. It's about a 3.5, 4 foot wide. It's not deep. It's not a wet weather stream either. It's actually it flows year round. So, we've checked it. It's about a 10-foot wide area that we would have to go through, as far as the stream bed is concerned. And we would need about probably 30 foot of that to cross over to make a good road through.
It's not the creek, it's at the bottom of the hill.
Sort of, yes, sir.
I mean, like, if you're going down the belt line.
No, sir, it's not Speeds Creek. This is a tributary to Speeds Creek.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And another question. How far are we from getting a tire shredder and a crusher for glass?
Well, a long way, I would assume, just to be honest. So as far as glass crushing, how to put this in the feasibility of crushing the amount of glass that we get a year is not good. Most of the glass crushers, unless you're using one that you hand one bottle in at a time, which that would be time consuming for and labor intensive, pretty much is what a lot of companies places have done. There have been a couple counties in the state who have bought some of those, and now they're sitting aside. They did their PR statement on it and then kind of put it in the corner. But we only get about 300 ton of glass. A small glass shredder that you load with a loader is going to do 200 tons an hour. We'd have to wait all year long, stockpile it, and run it for an hour, hour and a half to crush it to that point. So as far as you talking about getting it to use for other materials like sandblasting material, other type of media, you really need a lot more glass. You need thousands of tons versus hundreds of tons, and that's what the research we have seen. We have no issue getting rid of our glass. We crush it with our loader. When we dump it, we actually overload trailers. We have to take glass off. Most of the time it goes to Strategic Materials in Atlanta. We can also use it as alternate cover at the landfill if we need to mix it in with soil or mulch at the landfill. We very seldom ever do that unless we get a contaminated load that we cannot get rid of.
Let me ask you, are we paying to have that sent to Atlanta by a ton?
We pay very little on certain things. The brown and green glass, we're paying about, it's a fuel surcharge now. We're getting, what, $8, $10 a load somewhere, or?
By the time what they pay us to actually recycle that glass and our fuel surcharge, we end up paying about $7 a load to get rid of it. So
Yes.
we're
You say a
paying about
load.
A load. That's a 20-ton load.
20 tons.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. All right, well, I see where you're coming from as far as feasibility.
Yes, sir.
But it's a big thing to recycle.
Yes, sir. And we try to keep it that way. We try to not have anything thrown away as much as possible. And then from the tire standpoint, shredding it, companies, well, it's a kind of like a double-edged sword. You shred it and get it to a point that they can use it like in septic tank fields. You've got a lot of old school septic tank guys. They're like, we're sticking with rock. We don't have a problem with rock. We're going to go with rock, and they won't buy it. And if you stockpile it and let it sit, chopped up rubber, tires, whatever you want to, how you want to do it, is chopped up in pieces. It's just like mulch. It will catch on fire, and a windrow of chipped up tires is very hard to put out. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. They are worse than a mulch fire. You know what happened down on Wells Highway with his large pile? Well, tire piles can last for months on fire because it's hard to get them out. So you've got to have a investment, a place that's going to take them. And I can tell you from our going to tire meetings in Columbia, there's a tire coalition. We actually got a meeting in I think October or November that we're going back to. There's very little avenues for tires shredded. Pretty much there's a U.S. Tire, Liberty Tire, whatever they're doing business as, in which state. They're one company. They have a huge landfill in North Carolina. Whatever they can't recycle or get sold for either reuse or for some other product, they send there. And they pretty much got the stream on it because people cannot get rid of the tire. And the tire's not rubber anymore. It used to be, you know, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was 80, 90% rubber. Now it's Kevlar. It's radial and steel, you got plastic poly type belts in them. You got steel belting, and you've got probably about an inch to a half inch of actual true rubber on the material now. And these new EV cars that are out with different types of tires, they even have less rubber in them due to the torque that's required to get those cars going. They have to put other things in it. So it's not just like recycling rubber. It's issues, more materials in it. When we're facing that same thing with some plastics. They're putting 3 and 4 types of plastics in some bottles and jars and things, and nobody wants those. So they tell us not to put those in with our 1s and 2s. They got to be a legitimate either PET or HDPE type product, or they won't take those either. They call it contamination, and we get hit with those too. So
If you had ground tires, could it be used as a coating on your roads down in there?
Well, there is a potential on that. It can actually be used. Clemson actually had the ARTS program, what they call the ARTS program. It was a tire technology reuse project. We actually discussed this the other week at Ms. Brock's in our staff meeting. They've kind of gone away from portions of that. You can use it in there, but they're still doing. You have to add other ingredients to make it work just as good as rock, and the cost goes up. So there again, DOT, a state department, has looked at it. They actually did part of 385 with using rubber on one side and not on the other, and they're saying just the same amount of wear and tear, and it costed them more to put the tires in that side of that stretch than they did on the other side. And now they're trying to get away from asphalt. They're putting everything down concrete because it just lasts so much longer. So it's like I said, there's no easy thing with trash. Or recyclables. We have gone a total 360. When I came into this 18 years ago, actually 2022 when I was working with DHEC, it was sort and separate. Then it went to co-mingle, and now we're back to sort and separate because things have changed dramatically over the last 22 years.
I just got a comment. I appreciate you coming forward, and it seems like to me you know more about recycling than I ever will.
Thank you,
So
sir.
appreciate you
Thank
coming and talking with us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I do, Mr. Chairman, can I request a recommendation?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask that this committee give us permission and direction to move forward with the purchase of the most pertinent item and the highest priority matter, which would be the compactor, looking both on used websites and in market, knowing that it may be a number of months before it's even possible that delivery comes.
That, and I don't know these names that good. Is it Bomac or Bo?
Bomac, yes, sir.
They had one in there with 1,600 hours, 289,000.
Okay. We'll be more than glad to look at them.
It
Yes.
was a 2018,
Okay.
but it's on the first page, or it is on my website.
Yes, sir.
Do we need a motion to,
I would prefer one, yes.
I'd make a motion for Ms. Brock to bring this back, however we want to word it.
To bring it back to council to do the search for the compactor and the.
I'll provide
purchase.
potential funding options at that time too.
All right.
We've done some research behind the scenes, of course, preparing, knowing that what we're going to have, next steps we're going to have to take. I'll bring those funding sources too.
I'll
Mr.
second
Hart,
that motion.
I really appreciate the tire comments. Swain and Amy are probably sick and tired of hearing me scream about tires. And I'm just gonna say this, I believe that there's a form in which the counties can form a voice together and work with the Association of Counties so that the state starts to fund some of the tire recycling activities within the counties in the state. Every single county in the state of South Carolina is under the same predicaments with tires that we are. Outside of 2 storage counties, they get extra funding from the state. But there's one in the lower part of the state, it's 300-acre site that is stacked with nothing but tires. It is a tire wasteland.
And it takes a long time. They just don't break down either.
No, sir.
They don't rot.
And they're so inconsistent, like Mr. Steele said, it's not like, it's as different as furniture is today. This table's wood, that is some kind of composite. Those are now metal. That is, how everything has changed in the world has created a larger problem for those of us trying to handle what was on our hands 20 years ago and what is coming to our hands today, and heaven only knows what the future may hold.
Yes.
And what the problem with solid waste is, with all the laws in place with tires and the funding, it all dates back to 1992, and they have no updates.
Update in 98.
And some in 98. The tires is still the $2 fee that you pay.
I was fixing to ask about that. Where does that $2 fee go to?
Well, it's a couple different ways. So if we'll use say a big box store sells a set of tires, and they choose to hire a company to handle that, they are able to use like $1.50 of that toward the cost of disposal, and then 50 cents goes to the state. If they choose to bring it to us, if I'm correct, the $2 goes to the state, and then we get like $1 or something back from there, and a portion of that 50 cent goes into a grant fund that we get grants that we typically get every year to cover some cost. And there, we went for years, the cost to recycle it, you're looking, just like 8 years ago, we had a company in Hartwell that we took the tires to. They were able to recycle. We paid like $82 a ton. Now, they actually got bought up by US Tire. And so we're back to paying the company out of Johnson, South Carolina, which is right out of Edgefield. We paid them a little over $260 a ton for most tires, plus a fuel surcharge of like $500 something a load, or tractor trailer load. And then on top of that, if there's large tires, like tractor trailer tires, it's like almost $600 a ton for those. So we don't have a lot of tractor tires, thankfully. And so you get some of that. So that tire fee hadn't changed, or you can charge $150 a ton, and that's capped by the state. That's all you can charge if they show that they have they paid a price in South Carolina. Now, if they buy it on the internet and didn't pay taxes, and the fees didn't get applied, we can charge whatever we need to charge for that tire to get disposed of. But if it's paid for in South Carolina and they have a receipt saying they paid their $2 fee, then you have to take that for free, especially if a resident has one and brings it to us. And we recommend to all residents, if you have it done like at Walmart or any of the other places like that do tires on large thing, don't bring the tires back. You've paid that fee. Let them dispose of it from that standpoint. And we have that all across everywhere. And so that's what those fees are supposed to apply to and go. But then, as like I said, we've gone to these tire meetings where last year it went before the General Assembly to try to get the $2 fee raised to $4, and it was shot down. Now they're trying to bring it back up this year again. And they're actually asking for both the $2 fee to be increased or the cap on the $150 a ton. They did a survey several weeks ago with the Association of Counties. They asked us for what we pay and where we're hauling to. And they've got a spreadsheet and a whole thing that they're going to present at the meeting either in October or November, whichever month it is. That they're going to show what everybody's costs are. If there's any other options of getting rid of them, or and what we can do best. Yes.
Chairman, I don't think we had a vote on the motion.
We've got a motion and a second
Second.
for Ms. Brock to look for equipment. All in favor? Aye.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're at the end of this meeting. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.